Hi, everyone. Welcome to the latest big story from The Atlantic. I'm Jeffrey Goldberg. I'm the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, and I want to welcome you to this latest Zoom episode. We are very grateful that our readers have been turning to The Atlantic in unprecedented numbers for our coverage of the coronavirus pandemic and much more. We encourage you to subscribe to our magazine, and you could do that on the internet. And when you do, you get unimpeded access to everything we do. Our goal for this series is to go behind the scenes with our writers into their homes, because that's where they all are, to take you deeper into their thinking and how they're handling the various aspects of this global crisis. I want to remind all the viewers before we start that you can be part of this conversation. You can do that by typing your questions in the Q&A box on the bottom of the screen, and I will try to incorporate them into the discussion. We have quite a few questions already, but I will try my best to incorporate them. Keep them as short as possible, and make them in the form of a question, and keep them on topic. That would be great too. So with that, I'm very pleased to welcome Dave Grohl to the big story. Dave, of course, is a prominent Atlantic writer, and he's also a musician of some sort, apparently with a band, Foo Fighters. You'll explain that one day to me. Dave, we're happy to have you here. We're finding you far away from Washington. Nice to see you. Dave Grohl, of course, the founder, leader of Foo Fighters. Before that, drummer in Nirvana. Before that, in Scream. Washington, D.C. native. I'm coming to you from Washington. And also, by the way, and we should talk about this because I never asked you about this, but you could have been Tom Petty's drummer. You could have been. That's true. That's a true thing, right?
It is true. Back in, I think it was 1994. It was actually when I was in the studio recording the first Foo Fighters record. I booked 5 days at a studio down the street from my house just to record these demo songs that I had written by myself and nobody had really ever heard. And I played all the instruments on these demos. And so this week that I was recording, I booked 5 days at an actual studio down the street from my house. While I was in the middle of recording those songs, I get a call asking if I wanted to play drums with Tom Petty on Saturday Night Live. And my initial reaction was like, wait, what? He can't find a good drummer? Like, he's got to be able to find, like, honestly, I mean, the guy, it's Tom Petty. And so I thought, there's a million drummers he could call. I wonder why he's calling me. I think it turns out that I think his daughter was the one that said, you should get the guy from Nirvana. Because at this point, Nirvana was over. And right. I hadn't done anything since Kurt died. And so I went into the studio to record these songs just to have something to do. And while I'm recording those songs, I get the call to go down and play with Tom Petty. So yeah, I mean, when I went down to Los Angeles to rehearse with them, Tom was such a laid back, down to earth, genuine dude. There was no pretension. He had a little bit of Southern in him. He had a lot of rock and roll in him. And his band was a band. I mean, it was the Heartbreakers, most of them. And so it was like, they ran like a band. And when I went down to rehearse with them, they were so lovely. They were so nice. They made me feel like I was a part of the band. When we first kicked into, there were 2 songs we had to play. We had to play a song called You Don't Know How It Feels and a song called Honeybee. And when we kicked into the first song, it just felt great and it sounded great. And I'm kind of a loud drummer, so when we first kicked in, they were cracking up at how loud it was.
There's a kind of a mellow weed kind of vibe.
They didn't get that with me.
Yeah. It's like whatever, dude. I don't know. It doesn't. I saw the performance Saturday Night Live. I mean, it all gelled, but it was kind of, what's Dave Grohl doing there with Tom
Well,
Petty?
the
Like
craziest
chill.
thing.
I'm not saying you're not chill, but he was very chill.
Oh, it definitely changed the tone of what they were doing. But the
Yeah.
craziest thing, this is a great story, is that when we got there for sound check, at Saturday Night Live, you show up on, I think Wednesday, and then you sound check Thursday, you have Friday off. Saturday, you sound check one more time, camera blocking, dress rehearsal, then the live show. So we got there Thursday for sound check, and my drums were big drums. I mean, it was only a 4-piece drum set, but the rack tom that I had was like a 15 or 16-inch drum, really big. And which I loved because I could hide behind those things. They were huge and they sounded amazing. And they were really big and boomy. But more than anything, I just loved kind of hiding behind them. So we start sound checking. It sounds great. And then it was time to do camera blocking. And we run through one take, and the director says, hey, Tom, is there any way that you could just move about 3 feet to your right? Because we can't get a shot of Dave behind the drums. And Tom says, he goes, well, no, man. I mean, it sounds great up here. We worked on it a couple hours. I think we should leave it where it is. He's like, yeah, I know. We're just, and so then they tried to put like a smaller mic on my drum, but they still couldn't. Eventually they said, they were like, Tom, is there any way you could move over 3 feet to the right? He goes, okay, I'll do it, but I tell you, it's going to sound different. So they move all of his monitors and microphone 3 feet to the right. We start playing the next take, and there's this blast of feedback, like, wee! And Tom turns around and says, stop, everybody. And he looks at the director, he goes, come here. And the director comes up to him, Tom says, he says, what'd I tell you? And the director said, no, I know we could, but he goes, no, what did I tell you? And the guy says, well, you said that we shouldn't move anything because it'll sound different. And Tom said, that's right, now move it back. And I remember that was, of all the stories I'd ever heard about Tom Petty, that, he never took shit from anybody, ever. Like, he sort of stood his ground, always, and kind of got roughed up in the music industry. So at that point, it was like nobody was going to tell Tom what to do or how to do it any better. And so the performance was great. And then after that, I had one phone conversation with him where he asked me to consider joining the band. And he's like, well, here's how we work. And, you get your own bus, and here's how much we tour, and blah, blah, blah. And I thought about it because, first of all, it's Tom Petty, and everyone's grown up listening to Tom Petty. And as a person, he was such a great dude, and his catalog was like the soundtrack to my life growing up in Virginia outside of DC. But I had just started this new thing, and I'd never been the singer of a band. I'd never fronted a band. I had all these songs I'd recorded that I'd never let anyone hear. And after Nirvana ended, I thought, like, I don't really know if I wanted to be someone's drummer for the rest of my life. I was young. I was 25 years old. So I really kind of, rolled the dice and thought, well, I'm just going to try this thing that I've never done before. And that was 25 years ago. A long time ago.
I want to come back to various moments in your career, but let's talk about your journalism first. Let's talk about the journalism. Hey, don't knock it. So whatever, I don't know what happened. We were just talking during the beginning of the pandemic, and I said to you something like, you should just write a pandemic playlist. And then you nailed it the first go around, which is pretty unusual in any part of journalism, which is fun. And we should talk about some of the things that are on the pandemic playlist. But then we were, and that was great. People enjoyed that. And, people are really looking for that because I find myself more than ever going down I think you called it the midnight YouTube wormhole, of like old concerts and music, whatever, just trying to get your juices flowing. And so that was great. And then we started talking about what it's like to be a person like you who has never been off stage for very long in, I don't know, forever, essentially, since high school.
Been a while.
Yeah, you always know when the next stage is coming. You know, there's always a show, there's always a guest spot, there's always a tour. And then we started talking a little bit more about what it's like to live in a world without live performance. So maybe you could, for the few Americans who haven't read that piece, which you can find on theatlantic.com, by the way, why don't you just talk for a minute about the idea behind it and the conclusions you drew from where we are as a country and the necessity of communal experience?
Well, you know, I think that everyone's kind of had to sort of rewrite their existence. You know, as you said, in my life I've had an itinerary for 30 years. I know where I'm supposed to be at 11 o'clock lobby call, at 2 o'clock baggage claim, at 5 o'clock sound check, and 9 o'clock stage, and on the bus to the next city. Like, and so the structure of my life has been written for so long that when the world hits pause and you're left without your sort of routine structure, it can be upsetting. Not necessarily emotionally, but it'll, like, you know, but it can definitely turn things upside down, which then turns into sort of this like emotional dance where you have to stop and you know, rethink a lot of who you are and what you do and how you do these things. And I think a lot of people have turned to music because it's just given a lot of people, it's given everyone a little more time to explore or appreciate things that they may have otherwise overlooked before. Like, I remember the first time I really listened to a George Michael song, and this is only, I don't know, 8 months ago or something like that. And I was on vacation, and I sat down and I got really into the kick drum pattern in the bridge. Now, this is something that wouldn't happen had I not had an hour to myself to really sort of, so I feel like people now, you know, have had to, I don't know, have had to like sort of stop, pause, reflect, rethink. And when we were talking about that pandemic playlist, my immediate, I thought, like, well, I mean, the first thing I thought of was that wombat in the Australian zoo that had gone insane and was running in figure 8 circles in its pen. But the different stages that everyone seemed to be going through, like, you know, the first obvious stage, I think, was sort of this fear and preparation, where it's, you know, there was no toilet paper, you know, and as I watched, I was still going to the market, you know, every couple of days, and I just kind of watched this market be depleted of some really funny things, and then some, you know, some real necessities, and thinking, wow, this is really like this is a panic, like this is kind of this is driven by fear, but that preparation of people saying, like, okay, I'm going to have to go stay in my apartment by myself for who knows how long. Let's just like hunker down and do this. So from preparation to, you know, to all the funny things your mind will do in isolation, I just started picking songs that seemed to, you know, kind of not necessarily make light of it, but sort of, I don't know, create a little soundtrack to it. But that was fun, because I rarely get asked to write anything, and I love writing. I came from a family of writers, and it's really fun. Writing music is one thing, but it's similar, I think, in the composition or arrangement. If you're writing a song or a set list, you want to keep your reader or listener engaged. So you kind of take them from point A to point B.
Yeah, you
and
got to bring them somewhere.
Yeah, so it's fun.
You know, and it's we love having it, obviously. Talk about the other piece too. The idea that like we don't really have a choice. We have to have live music and these communal experiences. But I guess the question for you is, as this thing goes on, like, do you actually worry about the possibilities here? Like, how long is it going to be before we can have a truly intense, close-in concert experience? I mean, we were talking once. I remember this about the old 930 Club in Washington. You know, and part of the charm of that was the bathroom was like Chernobyl, right? Like you go in and like it's the most. I mean, but that was the thing. It's like you're surrounded by like crazy, sweaty, intoxicated, whatever, and you're in the middle of this crowd. And there's a band that's trying really hard right in front of you, you know, and that experience. I mean, now that we all think about terms of respiratory droplets, you know, I don't want to think about the respiratory droplet situation in the old 930 Club or the new 930 Club. So, like, what are you worried about most about getting back, or is there no back to what you once did?
I think there'll be a return to live music for sure. You know, I think this whole experience is going to change everything. I think that the way that we go to concerts, the way we experience live music, the way we experience everyday life, I think it's going to change. I mean, it's definitely like now kind of ingrained in everyone's psyche that it's funny. You know what I did? I woke up at 2:00 in the morning, as I always do. I turned on the television, and What About Bob was on. Remember that movie, the Bill Murray movie?
Yeah, sort of.
He's a multi-phobic mess, right? And
Right.
Richard Dreyfuss is his, and I'm sitting there watching. The first 15 minutes of that movie is pretty much blueprint playbook of what everyone is going through right now. I don't remember when that movie came out, but I mean, you know, he's like touching elevator buttons with a Kleenex because he doesn't want to get germs. And that was considered comedy back then, you know, not anymore. So, but I think there'll be
now it's a public health announcement, right?
Exactly. And that's the least you can do. So, but I think that it will come back. I don't know anyone that has the answer. I've talked to a lot of people about it. Obviously, we just made a record and it's awesome. And we've worked on all these projects we're supposed to release now for our 25th anniversary. So we're constantly thinking about when we can get back to work because we have this backload of stuff that's ready to release. But nobody knows. And yeah. I don't really think we can make the timeline, you know, but the process of doing it, I think it's two things. It's what is safe and what makes people feel safe. Because like you said, when you go to a show, you want to lose yourself in the experience and you want to share it in that like communal, tangible environment where that's the joy of, to me, live music. Like, you know, my first concert I ever went to, I think I was 13 years old. It wasn't the big arena rock concert. It was in this tiny dive bar across the street from Wrigley Field. The place is called the Cubby Bear. And my punk rock cousin, Tracy, took me to go see this band called Naked Raygun. And they were a punk rock band. So we went to this divey bar. There were maybe, I don't know, 75 people in the audience and a band on stage that, you know, that played raw punk rock. The singer was jumping into the crowd. People were stage diving. There was spit. There was broken bottles. There was sweat and leather jackets. And that's what inspired me to become a musician, because it wasn't some, it didn't seem like an unattainable experience. It was like, oh my God, I know 3 chords and I can spit. Like, wait, I'm pretty sure that I could. And so, and I think
I could take my shirt off, right? Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
So, but I think that, but there's something about live music in that communal environment that that makes music better. It makes it's more inspiring. And when you share it with others, that's a big deal. So over the years, having played a lot of gigs, having gone to a lot of gigs, that is without a doubt my favorite thing about music. I've never practiced the drums by myself because, like, why? I like playing with other people. So pretty much everything I've learned once I got a drum set was playing with others, So I don't know. I have faith that it's going to happen. Don't ask me how the logistics are going to work, no, but it must,
Well, this is the question. You can't social distance and have that same experience, but you might have to. But it's very hard to picture it. Talk about people would love to know there are many, many more people in America who've gone to concerts than been on the stage. So you're looking out. What are you, and it depends on the venue size, I suppose, but you're looking out. What are you getting? Is your music getting better because you're getting something back? Talk about that.
Absolutely.
Talk about the relationship. Now that we all miss being parts of live events, talk about the relationship between you and the audience and what that does for the music.
Well, over the years, when we first started as a band, I was just so terrified that I'd look out at the audience and I'd think, like, oh my God, here come the bottles, here come the tomatoes, here come the eggs. Like, we're just going to get just bottled off stage. But then over the years, as we grew more comfortable playing in front of live audiences, but then also sort of gaining a following, I started seeing them as kind of like our tribe in a way, or those are our people. Like, I would look out at an audience and I'd think, okay, like, these are our people, and performing, I would invite them into the performance with us. I mean, if you've ever seen us play, you know that I invite the audience to sing a chorus with me, or I engage the audience in between. I talk a lot too in between.
No, you do a lot of shtick, by the way.
There's a whole lot of shtick, but it's because I feel like, I want these people to know that I am there for them that night. Like, we're creating this experience together. That's what's going on. This isn't like some click track Pro Tools version of a show that we do every night. Every night's a little bit different, we have our set list.
You even invite people up to play with you. I mean, the famous Kiss guy, and a lot of other Kiss guy. But I mean, that's a fraught thing, right? I mean, you're inviting these people up you don't know at all.
Well, yeah, and partly because I don't really want to know what's going to happen next. If I did know what was going to happen next every night, then what fun would that be? So, when someone's holding a sign, listen, at this point, it's like The Price is Right at a Foo Fighters show. There's so many people with signs. It's like, and so I look out and I see someone whose arms are, so tired from holding this sign for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And it says, hey, I want to play Monkey Wrench. And the Kiss guy in particular, that guy was great because he had on full Kiss makeup, right? And he was right sort of in the front of the audience, holding this sign that he wanted to play one of our songs, a song called Monkey Wrench. He wanted to play that song. And that song's 2 hours and 10 minutes into the set. The poor dude was holding this sign up for that long, and his Kiss makeup was just dissolving off of his face. So I look at him and I'm like, I had to give it to the guy. Like, he'd at least earned a shout out. And so I looked at him and I said, do you want to come up and play? Little did I know that the guy was a ripper. I mean, he came up and shredded the song, had no problem going to the front of the stage and taking the solo right out of the gate. But, when you walk off stage from a night like that, you think, oh God, I can't wait to do this again. If it were really the same thing every night. I mean, the best was, there was one night in Kansas, I think, where we walked on for the encore. The house lights were up. I walk on for the encore. I'm kind of waving, and I look and I see this little kid. He was 3.5 feet tall. I mean, he was this kid, and he was looking at me, no sign, but he was screaming. He was saying, I want to play guitar. I want to play guitar. I got to play guitar. And I look at him, and I sort of said, do you know you know how to play guitar? He goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. I go, all right, come on up. So he climbs over to the seats and the railing and up the steps, and he walks on stage. And I said, hey, buddy, what's your name? He says, Collier. And I said, what? He goes, Collier. And I said, am I going to have to call your mom to have her come pick you up? It was funny. Anyway, so I said, do you know any songs? He goes, yeah, I know a lot of Metallica songs. I'm like, oh, great. So I give him my guitar. He launches into Metallica's big hit, Enter Sandman. The place goes bananas. So me and Taylor start doing it with him. And the place like erupts into, it was, I mean, the moment, as this is what we're talking about, the moment where that happened and 15,000 people just go like this, it's magical. It gives you chills. It gives me chills right now talking about it. Here's the best part. So then he goes through a couple things, and now I don't know how to get him off the stage. I'm not sure how to get him off the stage. So at first I say, okay, see ya. And he's just staring at me. I mean, he's this big, you know? And I said, I thought the only way to get him off stage was to give him my guitar. so I said, you want that? And he goes, huh? And I said, do you want that? You want that guitar? You can have it. And that was my number one guitar for at least 10 years. Like that guitar I'd had, but the tour was almost over. So he walks off with the guitar, and I jokingly say to him, I say, Collier, if I see that thing on eBay, I will find you. Like, I will find you. So so that night I see a video of it, put it on the Foo Fighters social stuff, but I also sent it to Lars, the drummer of Metallica, who's a friend of mine. I said, look at this kid playing Metallica songs. So I sent him the video. We both put it up on our band stuff. It's on the Metallica socials, it's on the Foo Fighters socials. The next day, that kid goes on his Instagram and says, hi, my name's Collier. I'm the guy that you've seen on the Metallica thing and the Foo Fighters thing. He said, yesterday I had 14 followers. Now I have, 14,000 or something. He said, my best friend is sick and in the hospital and has these 3 different illnesses. I'm going to start a GoFundMe page. And if each one of us could just give $1, we could help save my friend's life and pay for his medical bills. So this 10-year-old kid, the first thing he thought of doing was saving his friend's life. Now, if that's not the power of music, each one of these elements had to do with this kid leading to helping save his friend's life. So does that need to come back? Yes, that needs to return for sure.
Yeah, well, that's amazing story. That I don't want to get overly philosophical about this, but you do a lot of things about this, about America coming apart and coming together, and I don't know if you're familiar with the work of Mr. Bruce Springsteen, but he has these concerts that I've attended quite a few of them that are these communal experiences, and that you leave feeling connected to somebody you never knew and you don't know. You leaving together and you've shared this thing. I'm just trolling you, obviously. You can talk about Bruce Springsteen all you want. But that, I mean, do we make too much of the power of music to do that? Or is music, like everything else in this country, so bifurcated, trifurcated? Like there's just narrow lanes for everybody's specialty. I mean, this is another sub-anxiety of mine, that everything becomes so specialized, and bands have their very discrete followings, but there's nothing universal. When we were growing up as kids, there was one TV show you watched because it was the only show on at that moment, and music somehow seemed bigger. Foo Fighters has maintained its status as the rock band, to some degree, but talk about that a little bit. Talk about where music is, and does it have a kind of unifying purpose in this culture?
I think it does, and it has something to do with the human element that we've talked about before, because there's something about seeing a human being on stage with an instrument or not, that that inspires you as a human being. It's easy to think of music as just a sound, something that comes out of your car speakers when you're sitting in traffic, something that, you know, plays in an elevator or is just sort of background in the supermarket. But really, music is all about human beings. So I think that the genre or the type of music doesn't necessarily matter. It's more about the connection to the human being that's on stage. So for years, we've gone and played these summer festivals in Europe where the lineups can be really diverse, where a festival like Glastonbury in England, which they have every summer, is huge. It's hundreds of thousands of people. At this festival, you have everyone from Lionel Richie to Sonic Youth to Katy Perry to the Preservation Hall Jazz Band so you're able to kind of wander through this festival and discover things. I think that more than the genre, the type of music, it has to do with the energy of the performer on stage, their connection with the audience, and you sort of appreciating the performer as a person. So yeah, I mean, I've seen bands that I don't like, you know. I've seen musicians that perform music that I don't necessarily listen to that I fall in love with. I think it's the feeling sort of transcends any type of music. It just has to do with the human interaction. But yeah, I mean, the connection to an audience is huge. You talk about Bruce Springsteen. He's obviously he's one with his audience, and I've seen him perform before, and you know, he fills the room, but he fills it. It has more to do with his connection with the people, and you do read an audience, you know. I mean, sometimes getting out on stage to perform, it's kind of like a blind date. You know, you walk out and you think, okay, well, hope this goes.
You ever read an audience and think, I don't want to read this audience, I want to get out of here?
Oh my God. Well, man, we did this tour where we opened up for Bob Dylan. This is a long time ago. This is maybe 16 years ago. We went out and performed this acoustic set in front of Bob Dylan's audience for a few weeks. And every night we would walk on stage and it was just an arena full of people with crossed arms, just basically waiting for Bob. So I saw it as a challenge. I thought, okay, there must be a way to win over this audience tonight. And not that we necessarily did every night, but we took a stab at it. And to me, it was a wonderful challenge. I do know that some people walked away from that show having never heard the band, thinking, maybe I'll check them out. To me, that was enough. Plus, I got to see Bob Dylan every night. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I think as we've talked a lot about the human connection, I think that sort of eclipses any type of music. I think it has more to do with the person on stage.
Let me ask a couple of questions to you from our audience. This is from Owen Moore, who is turning 14 years old tomorrow.
Yeah.
And he wants to know I think it's because he plays the bass and the drums. He wants to know what your very first concert experience, the very first live performance was like. I guess he means, were you scared? Were you ready? Where was it? Talk about your very first time you actually played in front of other people who weren't your mom.
Oh, geez. Well, it must have been, oh God, it really may have been my 9th grade Battle of the Bands. We played the song Footloose. That's really all I remember. And it was in the auditorium, I remember I broke a string the first song. My guitar was ferociously out of tune. I wasn't the lead singer. I was a guitarist. This is before I was a drummer. I sang the backups. So I sang that part of the song that goes, "You got to turn me around." That's me. And we lost to a band that had an unfair advantage because the singer and the guitar player, the singer was Trent Lott's son, and the guitar player was Senator Breaux from Louisiana.
Literally Senator Breaux.
Yes, it was his son.
Oh, his son.
So, yeah, so there was Chet Lott and Bill Breaux. So I think the fix was it. I don't know.
That would have been a good moment to break out Creedence's "Fortunate Son."
Yeah.
You know, that would have made your point. By the way, that's the most Washington story ever.
Hey, listen, it's funny. I just got a text from Chet Lott, I think yesterday. He read the piece. He read the Atlantic, and he said, "Everybody's seen the piece, Jeff."
Who doesn't? Who doesn't read
the
the
Atlantic? All my entire past.
Yeah, I understand. That's really awesome.
But yes, that was mortifying. I mean, it was years and years and years of just being terrified on stage. And
what would you tell 14-year-old Owen? Just get out there?
Well, you got to get out there because I honestly think the best way to sort of like form yourself or become better as a musician is a lot of it has to do with confidence, because you have to be able to push. Like, you have to be able to get on stage. You have to get yourself on stage, and you have to blow it. Like, you have to just kind of train wreck in order to learn how not to. But it really does push you. And I think that, a great example is that band, not that this is exactly what we're talking about, but the band Alabama Shakes. I remember seeing that band listed on side stages at festivals that we've played. And then we played the same festival a few years later, and now they're headlining the side stage. And then a few years later, now they're on the main stage. And then a few years later, they're headlining the main stage. And I think it's because they worked hard and they played everywhere, and they did it the right way. I think that's the way it should be done. You have to get out and give it to the people, bring it to the people. It's a funny thing to sort of aspire to right now, but it'll happen. And as a musician, you need to do it. You just do. Because, I know what my audience likes, and I give it to them. I'm not going to turn my back to the audience and play with my feedback pedal all night long. I want Live Aid 1985. I want, Radio Gaga. Like, I want that for 3 hours every night.
Right. Wait, talk about, speaking of Radio Gaga, my colleague James Parker wants to know, what's the best live band you've ever seen? You wrote in one of your pieces about the Freddie Mercury performance at Live Aid 1985, which 20 minutes long, right? A short, Freddie Mercury and Queen, obviously. But he had 100,000 people right in the palm of his hand.
Yes. There's volumes have been written about that performance that day, but and just so you know, I can't speak of Queen without acknowledging the two biggest Queen aficionados in the world, Taylor Hawkins, my drummer, and Pat Smear, my guitarist. Those two people still to this day will sit around debating the best B-side from 1974 to 77, whatever. So those guys know everything.
So when we participate in the Atlantic, we're going to do a special issue on the best Queen songs. It's where we're moving away from our usual. So I'll get Taylor
to info. But anyway,
right.
No, at that time, Queen was not the coolest band in the world. Not that they'd been overlooked or forgotten, but there were all these younger up and coming bands that had hits and hits and hits. And apparently Queen really rehearsed for that show. A lot of other bands just showed up and did their thing, whatever. But Queen, they wanted to make a statement. And I remember watching it live. I was at a house in Arlington off of Route 50, my communal band house where my punk rock band would practice. And we were cynical little jerks watching everyone God, they suck. Look at that guy's hair. Ugh. Listen to his voice. This is so stupid. and Queen came on. And I mean, we were like, we were sort of conditioned to hate anything popular. You know, we were like punk rockers, that sucks. Queen came on and all of us were completely blown away. We were like, oh my God, that was the best thing we've ever seen in our entire lives. So that was amazing. But I mean, going to see bands, you know, I didn't go to a big arena rock show until I was maybe like 18 or 19, because all of the shows that I'd seen before then were these punk rock gigs at the old 930 Club and at DC Space and at the Wilson Center and places in Washington, D.C. that at the most held 400 people. So there were these tight, hot, sweaty, little loud boxes of punk rock energy. And so that was my introduction to live music. That's, to me, still some of my favorite shows are from then. But there was a band from Washington, D.C. called the Bad Brains, which a lot of people reference as the best band they've ever seen. And truly, they were. The Bad Brains were a punk rock band from Washington, D.C. that were just, nobody had it like the Bad Brains. I don't know. It was like if Little Richard met the Sex Pistols and they got on stage and they just exploded. Like they were amazing. So, but over the years, you know, in the article I wrote, I referenced that U2 show in 2001, I guess it was. That really blew my mind, you know. Still to this day, like I'll going to see Paul McCartney and he just busts out, you know, 32 2.5-minute songs over the course of 3 hours, and you know every single one, and you cry, you know, because you realize how important this is to your life, you know. I mean, God, there's so many bands that I have loved seeing, but it's usually when the performance creates a moment that will just never be recreated. That kind of thing. That's the game changer.
One more question from we have a lot of musicians writing in with asking for advice, actually having to do with this moment of how to keep on your game. But I'll get to that in 1 second. I just wanted to ask you about Wembley. I mean, you started in basements, right? And then whatever, your trajectory takes you to Wembley Stadium, which is like a spaceship-sized venue. You do, you know, pretty triumphant performance there. Would you? Maybe it's a false dichotomy, but what is more enjoyable for you, being in front of 80,000 or 90,000 in Wembley, or, you know, 400? Talk about that. I mean, a lot of people who know your band well remember the Wembley experience.
Well, if you can manage to make a stadium feel intimate, then I think you would say 80,000 people. You know, a lot of musicians crave the intimate experience of being like right there with your audience. And a lot of musicians love the pageantry of a stadium rock show. If there's a way to make those two things happen together, then it's win-win. Personally, I love playing stadiums, man. Like, I love it. I love it when 80,000 people sing along to My Hero or Everlong or Learn to Fly or Times Like These or something like that. It's great, man, because what I realize is here you have people from all different walks of life and just strangers that are brought together for these 2.5 or 3 hours. And it's all, you know, it's joined by music, like people singing along. It's hard to imagine anything else in a time where everyone's so divided. It's hard to imagine what else is going to bring people together like that, you know, like a big old barbecue, maybe. But, you know, but I know that when we go and play to these audiences that it's not all one type of person, you know, they just have this one thing in common. And for 3 hours, I can bring them together to hang out and have a good time. That's great. Yeah, but so yes, I love the stadium just as much as, you know, Taylor, our drummer, has he's got a cover band called Chevy Metal that plays every once in a while. Used to play like Mexican restaurants and pizza parlors and state fairs and things like that. I'll play with him at those things, and yes, it is as much fun, if not sometimes more fun, than playing a stadium. I just love it all, you know. I just love playing.
Let me ask you this final question from Joshua from Brooklyn, New York. He asks, what's a tip or best practice staying on top of your musical game during these times? There's a lot of questions like this. There are a lot of people worried about losing their
chops. You know, I would try to learn things. I mean, people have a lot of time on their hands right now. So challenge yourself in learning things that you've never tried to learn before. I mean, I don't play piano, but last night I figured out how to play the theme from The Office on piano, okay? I Amazoned a keyboard because I thought I'm going to lose my mind if I don't have something in my hands. I got this keyboard and I figured out how to play the theme from The Office. And I was very proud of myself. I was like, hey, all right, maybe we'll slip it into the set list next time we do the Wembley show. But no, I would say that, you know, just sort of, and to do a little bit of exploration, you know, to go outside of the things that you're used to listening to and try to discover some things. That's when you were talking about having the one TV channel that you just watched whatever was on. You know, there was something beautiful about that because you were exposed to things you otherwise might not watch. You know, the glory days of MTV where there'd be like, you know, a Guns N' Roses video and then a Mariah Carey video and then a Nirvana video and then a PM Dawn video, whatever. It would sort of like take you through this ride of things that you wouldn't necessarily, or like 70s radio. It was very diverse, and you would learn to love songs that that you might not pick otherwise. So I would say to anyone, just kind of go and listen to things that you might not have had the time to listen to before. And if you're a musician, play along. Just sort of stretch it out a little bit and push so that you wind up doing things that you've never done before. It's one of the great luxuries of my life is I get to jam with a bunch of different people. So all these different musicians I've gotten to jam with, I learn from them. You know, I see how they do it. No two musicians do it the same. So in playing with other people, I've learned so much. And at this time, it might be a good idea for musicians to sort of look to the things they might not listen to otherwise.
Great point. Dave, I could go on today, but we're busy. We're busy guys. We're not that busy. Yeah, we're very busy. But I want to say just in closing, like this particular, the last piece that you wrote for us came out of the observation that I made that, you know, you were going to be in FedEx Field outside Washington, which holds 80,000 people on July 4th for the 25th anniversary Foo Fighters show. You're not doing it. You think you'll be able, I mean, again, we don't know the future holds, but are you gonna aim to do that at some point?
Oh my God, absolutely. I mean, that's the light at the end of my tunnel right now is I don't fear that that it's never going to happen again. I'm just waiting and trying to think of ways that we can get back to our people and back to our audience. And, you know, whether it's something like this, whether it's a drive-in movie theater, whether it's FedEx Field, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of figuring out how and where and when. And I do have faith that it'll happen. It might be different than it was before, but you know, but it has to happen, I think.
That was the point of your article, that it has to happen because humans need it, so we'll find a way, which is a very uplifting point to make, and I'll leave it leave it there with you. I want to say thank you very much to you for giving us your time, and especially on behalf of Atlantic readers, sharing your writing with us over the past month. We look forward to you committing future acts of journalism with us.
Right.
And
it's a book. It's a book of recipes, right? Is that what you're asking?
well, you know, actually, we got Stanley Tucci to send in some recipes the other day.
Oh,
Big, huge piece. I mean, he knows a lot of recipes.
Listen, The Big Night is one of my favorite movies
It's a
of
great
all time.
movie. No, I was like, what are you doing, Stanley? He says, I'm vacuuming and I'm cooking. And I said, okay, type it up. Type it up. That's what editors do. They just tell other people to type. Is essentially what we do. But I want to say thank you. I want people to go to the interwebs and look at Dave's pandemic playlist. Look at the piece on the future of live music. Google Kiss Guy Foo Fighters. You'll see very, very funny, very popular video. And I want to say thank you to our audience for joining us. And again, a special thanks to Dave for coming on and giving us these great stories. Thanks a lot, Dave.
Thanks, boss. We'll see you around.
All right. Bye.
Bye.